show. I am your host, Christene Marie, and we are talking about identity today. And we are actually going to start with a review of a lesson. We have been reading through A Course in Miracles every single day this year. And we're going to read through lesson 162, and then that's going to help kind of shape the conversation for today. So without further ado, lesson 162. I am as God created me. This single thought, held firmly in the mind, would save the world. From time to time, we will repeat it as we reach another stage in learning. It will mean far more to you than as you advance. These words are sacred, for they are the words God gave in answer to the world you made. By them it disappears, and all things seen within its misty clouds and vaporous illusions vanish as these words are spoken, for they come from God. Here is the word by which the Son became his Father's happiness, his love, and his completion. Here creation is proclaimed and honored as it is. There is no dream these words would not dispel, no thought of sin, no illusion which the world contains that will not fade away before their might. They are the trumpet of awakening that sounds around the world. The dead awake in answer to its call, and those who live and hear this sound will never look on death. Holy indeed is he who makes these words his own, arising with them in his mind, recalling them throughout the day, at night bringing them to him as he goes to sleep. His dreams are happy and his rest secure, his safety certain and his body healed, because he sleeps and awakens with the truth before him always. He will save the world because he gives the world what he receives each time he practices the words of truth. Today we practice simply, for the words we use are mighty, and they need no thoughts beyond themselves to change the mind of him who uses them. So holy it is changed, that it is now the treasury in which God places all his gifts and all his love to be distributed throughout the world. Increased in giving, kept complete through because its sharing is unlimited. And thus you learn to think with God. Christ's vision has restored your sight by salvaging your mind. We honor you today. Yours is the right to perfect holiness you now accept. With this acceptance is holiness brought to everyone. For who could cherish sin when holiness like this has blessed the world? Who could despair when perfect joy is yours, available to all as remedy for guilt and misery, all sense of loss, and for complete escape from sin and guilt? And who would not be brother to you now? You, his Redeemer and his Savior. Who could fail to welcome you into his heart with loving invitation, eager to unite with one like him in holiness? You are as God created you. These words dispel the night, and darkness is no more. The light is come today to bless the world, for you have recognized the Son of God, and in that recognition is the world. Y'all, I love today's lesson. It's so short and just gets straight to the point. There's a couple of things that I want to call out here, but before we do, I just want to lean into the concept of identity, because in order for us to know who we are, we need to actually understand what it is that we kind of are talking about here. So when we talk about identity, I like talking about it in two different veins. The first vein is, who did God create you to be in terms of your unique personality, your unique gifts, what makes you separate, what makes you different. And then kind of the second aspect of that identity is that you are always and forever will be loved and cherished and chosen and worthy, no matter what you do, should you so choose to walk in that. So there's two kind of parts of this identity that amalgamate into who you and I are. So it's identity A, who were you uniquely created to be? And then identity B, it's, well, gosh, this is universal. Universally, every single person is loved and chosen and uniquely made and loved, and they belong. And so when we talk about identity and when we talk about this concept from this lesson of you are as God created you to be, well, golly, then the second thing is, okay, well, what do I do now that if I'm going to believe that this is true, what are the results? And so for us, I just want to back up, because there's a line here that I read that I thought was so profoundly beautiful. So Here is the word by which the son became his father's happiness. Here creation is proclaimed and honored as it is. There is no dream these words will not dispel, no thought of sin, no illusion which the dream contains. They are the trumpet of awakening that sounds around the world. The dead awake in answer to its call, and those who live and hear this sound will never look on death. Y'all, I personally and know so many people who have moved through life asleep, where they were so fixated on the world around them and had no connection with their own kind of inner world. Yesterday, we talked about internal and inner intelligence and being awake and aware to our intellect, our emotions, our spirit, and our body. So mind, body, soul, spirit, knowing who we are and acting according to being the one that God created us to be requires us to have this kind of internal knowing, this internal intelligence. But it requires us to be awake and aware of what's going on inside. And so I felt like I moved through nearly 30 years of my life just being completely asleep. And it felt like, I love it how it says here, they are the trumpet of awakening that sounds around the world. That is exactly how it felt for me. I felt like I woke up. I'll always remember that day. I was sitting actually virtually with a counselor of mine, and my puppy Zeus was running throughout the yard catching bees with his mouth. And it was a beautiful day and very normal. But I had this moment when I felt like I looked in the mirror for the first time and I saw myself. And I woke up to this reality that I had been living as a non-person for nearly 30 years. And I was living asleep, and I was living so fixated on everyone around me that I wasn't even acting as a whole functioning human being. I was so beholden to everybody else and really had no sense of identity. And so when I was kind of looking at myself in the mirror, it was like, well, gosh. And my partner at the time, I was like, well, no wonder he left. Like, he wants to be with a non-person. Granted, that's no excuse for someone else's behavior, yet until we can look in the mirror and take the log out of our own eye, we're never going to be ever see clearly to really actually help anybody else. So us knowing our identity is actually the greatest form of love for those around us, so that we can actually be true service to them. Like, here, I'm going to help you with maybe your own growth, or maybe I'm just going to model growth and you can watch from me and learn from me, and then we grow together by proxy. Or maybe it's purely for the sake of love. Because I know who I am, I can operate in the fullness of those unique gifts that God gave me. Because otherwise, when I was living asleep, I felt like I was continuously striving to conform and adapt and become who my partner wanted me to be, who the world wanted me to be. And I just like to think of it as kind of akin to a compass that's broken. It's like you're navigating east and west rather than north, knowing fully who was I created to be before the dawn of time. And then when I come into this world, how far have I veered off from that person that was little Christene Marie? And for every single one of you here in the chat, same goes for you, Brian, and fitter man. Oh, wow. There's a lot of crazy comments here in the chat. Y'all, how much do we know who we are so that we can operate in the fullness of our calling and in the fullness of our own potential? When we talk about living awake, and it means that we're now awake even to our own potency and power and prowess. But if we're not living awake, there's no way that we can begin to walk in the fullness of that are ideal for ourselves, but also the ideal that God created for us when he made us to begin with. The second thing I wanted to call out here is that, okay, it says his dreams are happy and his rest secure, his safety certain and his body healed, because he sleeps and wakens with the truth always before him. He will save the world because he gives the world what he receives each time he practices the words of truth. So y'all, there's something around practicing the repetitive action of really meditating on the truth. So where you place your attention is where you place your energy. I heard that phrase for the first time almost a year ago. And that phrase has been so meaningful to me. Where you place your attention is where you place your energy. Because it's kind of like like you've almost got this like signal, like we've got our attention signal and it's kind of going back and forth trying to find somewhere to land. And then once you land on it, then all of a sudden your life force and energy goes behind it to focus its energy on that which you choose to place your attention. There's so much competing for our attention. And that's what good marketing tries to do. That's what good sales, good brands try to do. They try to compete and stop you from doom scrolling. They try to stop you when you're driving by with a really good road sign. And so it's those moments of where are you going to stop and place your attention and thus your energy. And man, where we place our attention is probably one of the most important things for us to consider. What occupies our attention more than anything else? Is it texting? Okay, well then who am I texting? Is it work? Is it my kids? Is it my partner? I don't have kids. But how much of our attention is going in different areas that actually do not yield good returns? Thinking of it like a bank or a financial investment. We are investing our attention and it always yields a return. So, what are the returns on your attention investment? And then your energy is going in those areas too. So, to this point where it says, he will save the world because he gives the world what he receives each time he practices the words of truth. Every time we meditate on that which is true, every time we remind ourselves of our identity and the truth of that, we are reinforcing kind of that attention towards the truth, that orientation north. Because the more we actually fixate on what other people are saying about us or what other people's expectations are for us, we are effectively putting our attention and thus our energy on their opinion of us. And then we cannot help but start living, even if it's kind of subconscious, in subservience, in servitude to them, rather than in subservience to, I like to think of it kind of as a hierarchical structure where it's like, okay, my ideal for who I want to be needs to be so high up there. But at the very pinnacle is who God created me to be. And so it is that hierarchical order where, yes, we actually do need to know what other people say. It's socially aware to know. And sometimes there's wisdom there for people to tell us, I actually really think that you need to grow in these ways, or you're really struggling in this area. So we need to understand what, our close people are saying for the purpose of growth. And at the same time, who do we want to be? Because sometimes our families are the very ones that bring us lower. So we need to know, we need to have such clear visibility into our own ideal for our lives, into our identity of who does God say that I am? Who was I uniquely created to be? Remember, identity is part A. This is the universal truth for every single person that we are loved, we are chosen, we are worthy. Every single person is that. They are loved. They are created in the image of God. They are beautifully and wonderfully made. Every single person. But then kind of identity B is, but you're also uniquely made. You are here for a reason, and you have unique gifts and talents and skills. And what are they? And so understanding our identity is really allowing for both of those to coexist, that we are connected with each other, and we're all made in the image of God. We're brothers and sisters, and we're also very uniquely here for a reason. And so allowing for our identity and to be higher up in the hierarchy than what everyone else says that we are. Because y'all, we were talking about marketing and sales earlier. A lot of the words that hold the most power, that move people to buy things, are words of fear. They're actually attacking your identity. They're saying, actually, you're not enough until you buy this. You're actually not good enough until you do this. You actually don't look a certain way. It's if you don't, then this, but if you do, then this. And so there's an attack on our identity with so many of these billboards, with so many of these messages from different buying competitors in the market that are trying to get us to purchase their product. And in that process, our identity is attacked day after day after day. Even on social media, same thing. It's, aren't you not happy with your life? Well, then you need more money. Take my program, buy my program. I'll help you get there. It's all predicated on our lack. It's all predicated on our insecurity. It's all predicated on this inner fear. It's all predicated on this inner fear of not being enough. And so If we are to know our identity and walk in the confidence of that, we're actually going very countercultural. And it's funny, there's something about it that people don't like. Not only are you now not a good buyer for them, you're now no longer a potential consumer, but they don't like it because now you're good enough without them. You don't need somebody else to come in and give you that affirmation because you've got it already. It's nice to receive compliments and encouragement, but the reality is that when we know our identity, we can stand and not waver when the wind blows. I actually, here on the Knowing Show, I get called a trans so much of the time. They're like, "You're a man." I'm like, "Well, no, I'm not." And that doesn't actually get under my skin because I'm confident that I'm not a man. But if they were calling me out on something, and that's happened before, people have been cruel in ways that has gotten under my skin because I was insecure there. I was previously married and my husband left. And people will comment, "Well, no wonder he left you." And they'll comment, "Yeah, I would leave you too," or something like that. And that has been sad to see in the past. And so the more we know who we are, the more confident we are in who we are, whose we are, and why we are. Because the thing is, y'all, every single one of us is here for a reason. And the more we are actually paying attention to that calling, rather than looking around us to the right and to the left, and the more focused we are navigating north, the more we'll be able to look those people in the eye and say, "You know what? I don't like to be talked to that way. And so I'm going to extricate myself from this business opportunity, extricate myself from this partnership, extricate myself from this conversation." The goal, people talk about boundaries a lot these days. They talk about self-love and self-care a lot these days. But what I don't like about that is when it is used as an abdication for responsibility. There's a very big difference when we know who we are, when we actually have our identity be the thing that keeps us safe for the purpose of our mission in life, for the purpose of loving better, for the purpose of protecting our own. We talked about this. Where you place your attention is where you place your energy. So the boundary of, I'm not even going to place my attention on what you're saying. I'm going to remove myself from the conversation or the relationship because I'm not going to place my attention on something that is so not true in compared to what God says. So I need to first know what God says and then know how to extricate myself so that I can protect my energy so that it can maintain its focus and its attention and life force being oriented towards the very things to which I am called. I just want to take a few minutes and jump here in the chat. Let me actually hop over to YouTube. Good morning, friends. I'm glad you're here. Oh, okay. Jumping here in the chat. Sammy, I'm so glad to see you. Y'all, Sammy is a friend of the Knowing Show, and he's just he's so precious to my heart. He joined us back at the beginning of the year and shared that it was actually that day was the anniversary of his accident, of when he broke his neck and became a C2 quadriplegic. And so, Sammy, you are loved, and we just hold you very special here. Alex Allgood, I'm so glad to see you. Hello, my friend. Dr. Christene, hello. Good to see you. Isaiah, thanks for joining. Jorge, good morning. Henry, can you give an example of where this happened and where you had to pull yourself back to God's word? Well, I mean, to be honest, the biggest example would be, and that's such a good question, because to be honest, I'm glad you asked that, because so much of the time it can be kind of talking about the good ways of living, but it's not. Okay, well, what's practical examples of this? So an example of when I needed to remind myself of truth. My former husband leaving me was the most devastating thing in my life. He said, "I don't love you, I don't love God, I don't love your family." And then those were his 3 reasons for leaving. And I came back to him and said, "I actually know you love me. Like, I've seen it in your eyes. I know you do." But for him, he was kind of destroying every part of his life. What's it called? He didn't say destroying. It was the kind of the popular, like, deconstructing. That's it. He was deconstructing his life and kind of cutting off everything that had to do with God. And I was one of those things. Um, and so he was deconstructing his life and deconstructed our marriage as a result. And that time when somebody says, I don't love you, that is a really, really hard time to remember, okay, am I lovable? He knew me better than anyone and he leaves me. So what does that say about me? And in those moments where I would feel that insecurity and feel threatened, my identity was so threatened in that time. Y'all, anytime somebody looks you in the eye and accuses you or attacks you or basically says you're not worthy, that is the time when we need to know the truth more than ever before. And so I really struggled, actually, for the majority of my marriage to feel like I was worthy to begin with. And so after he left, I realized that I was at this crossroads where it's, okay, is he going to be the one who defines who I am, or is God? And so I actually really dove into, okay, well, who was I created to be at the beginning? So some of the practices that I did was I went back and I really remembered, how did I show up as a kid? Who did God create me to be? And what would it look like to bring those qualities and those characteristics into adulthood now, to live in the fullness of who I was created to be? So that was kind of number one. Number two was, honestly, like literally the words God says about me, that I am loved, I am chosen, that there's a verse in the Bible that says he dances over you with singing. And like, what? The thought of God dancing over us, that he delights in us that much. That is insane. There's another one that says, you are precious and honored in my sight, and I love you. And so when we are not precious and honored in someone else's sight, but we are in God's, who's going to win? I like to think about whose voice has the microphone in our mind. And so one of the practices that actually my best friend challenged me to do was to write down one thing I loved about myself every day in accordance with the truth. And so I wrote down every single day, I wrote down one thing that I loved about myself. And it was very, very hard to do. When I first was challenged to do that, I felt like sick. And so it was in that time of really meditating on, oh, I actually really do like the fact that I laugh loud, and I like the fact that I love life, and I like the fact that I love pretty things. And so I just really started acknowledging and leaning into and kind of like affirming the parts of me that God made unique and beautiful that previously other people hadn't liked. Because at the end of the day, it's kind of me and God doing this world and this life. And it really, yes, it's good to hear feedback from other people, but y'all, it is so critical that you protect your identity, because we are in an attack and in a crisis of identity that more than ever before. People don't know who they are. And so they switch body types. They don't know who they are. And so they go and marry someone who's abusive. And so there's just like this real attack on who we are at our core. And the fact that we don't love it. Kay Musick says, you believed you weren't worthy. You create reality. Yes, if we don't believe we're worthy, that's going to be the thing that shows up in our lives. I never thought I was worthy of him. And I treated him that way. I was always like, I can't believe you're with me. And then eventually that's what was created. And of course he had his own beliefs and he created his own reality. So the way we believe, the beliefs that we hold and the way that we see ourselves in the world is ultimately what's going to be the thing that takes place in so many ways. So with that, I actually need to jump over to a business meeting. I'm 2 minutes late, but thank you all so much for joining. I'm so glad to see you, American Redneck. I'm so glad to see you, my friend Jorge. Don't be what people want you to be. That's kind of like the hallmark of this. Jorge, thank you so much for saying that. Kingston, good morning. Happy, what's today? Thursday. Good morning from Hawaii. Brian, love you, my friend. Thank you all so much for joining. I will see you tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific. Talk soon.